on Legally Us, Tom Sandoval backtracks on his lawsuit against Ariana and Madix as she and Katie Maloney are sued by their former chef. Plus, Angelina Jolie wants Brad Pitt to drop his lawsuit, and Sean Kingston is indicted as Priscilla Presley sues for elderly abuse. We got that plus so much more on today's Legally Us. Hey everyone, and welcome to Legally Us. I'm Christina, that's Neama Rahmani, President and CEO of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Neama, welcome back. We missed you.
I missed you too, Christina. Glad to be back.
Glad to be back. And of course, we got a lot to get to, so let's dive right in, starting with Tom Sandoval. He claimed in an Instagram statement that he didn't intentionally file a lawsuit against Ariana Madix, and he has fired his attorney, Matt Garagos. So he filed paperwork claiming that Ariana obtained access to his phone on March 1st, 2023, and reviewed explicit videos of Rachel Leviss and Sandoval without his authorization or permission. So in the filing, he alleged that Ariana made copies of the video and distributed it to Leviss and third parties without his knowledge. Her legal team maintained her innocence in the matter. Now, Rachel previously filed her own lawsuit against Sandoval and Ariana in February, accusing the exes of eavesdropping, revenge porn, and an invasion of privacy. Sandoval countersued Rachel in April and requested that her lawsuit be dismissed. Ariana, for her part, filed a countersuit against Rachel that same month, claiming that Rachel was hoping to punish and blame Miss Madix for the negative reaction she received as a result of her affair. Sandoval's attorney told us that his ongoing legal battle with Rachel is what led to his new filing directed toward Ariana. A lot to unpack here. Is what was filed something that was normal in this case, and is everybody kind of not blowing it out of proportion, but maybe blowing it out of proportion?
It is normal, but it was a terrible PR move because here we have a love triangle, but also a legal triangle. So what happened was when Rachel sued both Tom and Ariana, there's different types of responses. One is a counterclaim. So Tom replied and said, I had consent to record you, Rachel. But he also filed a cross-claim against Ariana. Under California law, anyone can be 100% at fault for a wrong or 0% or anything in between. So Tom was arguing that if the video got out, if it was disseminated, it was Ariana that did so. So that would be a typical legal maneuver, but certainly a terrible look to sue your ex that you cheated on.
Why do this now? Because these other lawsuits were filed, months ago. Why is he moving on this now, and why wasn't this handled previously?
So there's a period of time that you have to file a responsive pleading or these types of claims. He may have gotten an extension to do so. So it's something that we would typically expect, but certainly Tom should have known that this was happening. His lawyer should have advised him that, hey, we're going to file a cross-claim against Ariana. Do you want to do this, or do you just want to defend the case against Rachel?
Is this something that warranted Tom firing his attorney over?
Well, I don't know who was wrong. Did Tom not know that this was happening? Did his lawyer not tell him? Or did the lawyer tell Tom and Tom just made an incredible public relations mistake? And if so, he's trying to cover up his tracks. So it really depends on what he was told and what decision he made. I certainly would have never advised Tom to file any type of claim against Ariana after what he did, because he is someone who's in the public eye and he's going to get a lot of attention. And there's a reason that Tom and his girlfriend had to take down their Instagrams, because I'm sure the public backlash was swift and intense. After everything he put Ariana through, to sue her doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, and this is moving forward. So, hypothetically speaking, how do you foresee this kind of playing out?
So really the question is, what was put out? Obviously, I haven't seen the video. How far was it disseminated? If you believe Rachel, that a lot of folks have it, that's a big problem. If it's just a matter of Tom seeing it, and the question with respect to Tom is, did he have consent to record it? Obviously, if they were FaceTiming, he had consent to see Rachel naked. Ariana didn't have consent, but the question is, if Ariana is the only person that saw the video and she doesn't have a copy, probably not a high damage case. If Ariana took that video and distributed it far and wide, then that's a big deal, because once it's out, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Totally. All right. Well, Ariana is in some other legal trouble. She and Katie Maloney have been named in a lawsuit by their former Something About Her chef, Penny DeViti. DeViti filed court documents claiming that Ariana and Katie have not held up their initial agreement for 10% ownership stakes of the West Hollywood eatery. So the Vanderpump Rules stars initially enlisted DeViti to serve as the head chef of their French-inspired sandwich shop. They went their separate ways earlier this year over creative differences. According to the court documents, which were obtained by Entertainment Tonight, DeViti claimed that Ariana and Katie would retain 90% ownership of Something About Her and that she would get 10% as the chief operating officer and director of culinary. DeViti claimed that they reached a deal in June of 2023 in which she would earn $7,500 per month until January of 2024, when the sum would increase to a monthly $10,000. She is now alleging that the Bravo stars repudiated the deal and is requesting that a judge enforce the initial contract. Ariana and Katie have not publicly addressed the legal battle, but DeViti, meanwhile, was advised not to respond to Us Weekly's request for comment, as everything will be addressed in court. Who's at fault for this one? We did see DeViti on the show, so we did see that there were some tensions between the three of them, but now it seems to really have come to a head.
Christina, is going to come down to that agreement, and this is like any other partnership dispute or business dispute that we cover here on Legally Us. What did the contract say? Hopefully there was a contract. That's going to be dispositive, and if not, was there some sort of verbal agreement? Those are obviously much more difficult to prove. Hopefully Ariana and Katie's lawyers did the right thing, put this all in writing. And if it's a question of repudiation, which means that Ariana or Katie said, we have an agreement, but we're not going to go through with it, I don't think Penny is going to be able to enforce the agreement. Usually what happens in these cases, if there's a breach of contract, someone has to pay money. You can't force people to be partners with one another or to have to go through a business. I don't think any judge is going to order that. But if Katie and Ariana breach, they'll have to pay Penny money.
Yeah, they'll probably just have to pay her out, and they'll both go their separate ways.
Exactly, and there's going to be two items of damages. One is a salary, right, that she's talked about, but the other is that equity, that 10% interest in the business. So she's going to have to be paid out for that as well. Again, assuming it was Katie and Ariana that breached and not the other way around.
Got it. Well, we'll have to wait and see. All right. Well, Angelina Jolie's legal team wants Brad Pitt to drop his lawsuit amid their long and messy battle over their French winery they co-owned. Her lawyer released a statement to Entertainment Tonight alleging that Brad tried to punish and control Angelina by demanding a newly expanded NDA to cover his personal misconduct and abuse. It adds that those actions are central to these proceedings. We are not at all surprised Mr. Pitt is afraid to turn over the documents demonstrating these facts. While Angelina again asked Mr. Pitt to end the fighting and finally put their family on a clear path to healing. Unless Mr. Pitt withdraws his lawsuit, Angelina has no choice but to obtain the evidence necessary to prove his allegations wrong. Now, a friend of Brad Pitt, who is familiar with the ongoing legal debacle, told us earlier this year that these ongoing lawsuits are a pattern of behavior between the exes. This has been going on forever. What kind of tactic do you think Angelina's team is taking with this latest statement?
Christina, we've been covering this case for years now, and now we've come to realize that the NDA may have been the reason why the parties weren't able to come to an agreement. And what Angelina Jolie is saying is that I was willing to sell you my half of the chateau, the winery. You wanted me to sign an NDA, and because of that, there was no deal. That's why I sold it to a Russian oligarch. And we actually saw this recently in another high-profile case where Taylor Swift said that she didn't buy her masters from Scooter Braun because Scooter Braun wanted her to sign an NDA. Obviously, we're not a party to those conversations, so we don't know who's telling the truth, but this is at least the second big celebrity case that has apparently been blown up because one of the parties insisted the other sign an NDA.
But do you foresee Brad dropping this? Because then that means he's still in business with these other people, which he doesn't want to be in business with. And so can this just continue to drag on and on and on?
I think it will continue to drag on until Brad buys Angelina out. Frankly, it's something that should have been handled in the divorce. I can't believe the parties got divorced, decided on custody and the split of the assets, but they left their biggest asset probably till after the divorce. I don't think it was realistic for them to continue doing business together and to be partners in this winery after the divorce. It's something that should have happened a long time ago. And I think regardless of whether Angelina is telling the truth, if Brad wants this winery, he should buy her out.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens. All right, well, Sean Kingston and his mother, Janice Turner, have been indicted on allegations of wire fraud. The pair are accused of pressuring multiple businesses to give them goods that had not yet been paid for, claiming that the money for the items had been wired and was in transit. So a federal grand jury in Miami charged both Kingston and Turner on 5 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. The charges each carry a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. So the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Southern District of Florida claims the mother-son duo unjustly enriched themselves to the tune of more than $1 million by falsely representing that they had executed bank, wire, or other monetary payment transfers. So obviously they are in a whole big heap of trouble. Do you foresee them being in prison for 20 years?
Probably not 20 years, but they may face years in federal prison. I think things are looking really bad for Sean and his mom, and this is why. We've obviously been covering this case. They were facing state charges before and they were arrested, but now the feds have stepped in, and federal cases are a lot more serious and generally result in more prison time. So there's no double jeopardy issue when the states and the feds prosecute someone because they're dual sovereigns, but it's obviously much worse for someone to be prosecuted by the Department of Justice. They don't mess around, so I would expect either a guilty plea or a conviction in this case.
Yeah, would you, if you were representing Sean and his mother, would you advise them to enter a guilty plea?
I would have tried to resolve the case stateside and negotiate some sort of dismissal of the federal case. It's probably way too late for that. Whenever there's the possibility that you might get indicted by the U.S. Attorney's Office or the Department of Justice, generally speaking, you're going to be better off negotiating some sort of state resolution. But I don't think that's going to happen here.
Interesting. All right. And then finally, Priscilla Presley has sued multiple business associates for 12 different complaints, including financial elder abuse. Court documents obtained by us allege that Bridget Cruz, Kevin Falco, Bay Sislin, and Lynn Walker meticulously planned a scheme against an older woman by gaining her trust, isolating her from the most important people in her life, and duping her into believing that they would take care of her both personally and financially. Her attorney further alleged that the defendants planned to gain control of Priscilla's finances, forcing her into a form of indentured servitude where she would work and they would receive the lion's share of any revenue that she was able to earn in the future. The documents refer to Cruz specifically as a con artist and pathological liar who, along with Falco, misappropriated, embezzled, and converted more than $1 million from Priscilla. Her attorney claimed that they also fraudulently gained power of attorney, control of her family and personal trusts, and control over her bank accounts in the suit. Her lawsuit comes months after the Cruz and Falco sued her for breach of contract in February. Priscilla is looking to stop the defendants from having access to her financials and be held accountable. She's looking for a jury trial and a $1 million in damages plus attorney fees. How does something like this even get to this point?
Yeah, it's really nasty. So apparently Priscilla met Cruz when she was running an auction house selling some of Elvis's merchandise, and they entered into some sort of agreement. And obviously, I don't know what that agreement was, but if you believe Priscilla and her lawyer, the agreement called for Cruz and her associates to get up to 80% of the deals that they worked on. So that doesn't seem right to me in any type of business transaction. Obviously, Cruz disagrees, and let's not forget, Cruz is the one who filed a lawsuit first, saying that Priscilla owed her a lot of money. So this is one of those counterclaims or a new lawsuit that we see oftentimes when someone first files. That's going to encourage the other one to move forward as well, because they're thinking, well, if I have to defend this case, it's time for me to bring my own allegations as well.
Yeah, so this, again, kind of comes down, circling back to like Ariana and Katie, this comes down to what the contract stated.
It really does come down to what the contract stated. There's a little additional wrinkle as well, is because we're dealing with someone who's older, and we know that folks who are older can and often are taken advantage of financially. Normally, you wouldn't need to sign over a power of attorney or to give someone control over your trust if they're your financial or business advisor. So if I were representing Priscilla, or if I were representing Cruz, I want more information as to why Priscilla executed a power of attorney. Was this limited to finances? Did Cruz and her associates have power over her estate? They have power over medical or other decisions? That would seem abnormal, in my opinion.
All right, well, we'll have to see what happens. Well, Neama, thank you so much for running it down. As always, so great to have you back.
Great to be back, Christina. I'll see you next week.
See you next week.